It's interesting. The alarm rings every morning, but the purpose doesn't. We wake up, but we don't arrive. Stay with me till the end. The last few lessons will truly change how you wake up to life itself. Many of us open our eyes in the morning, yet our heart still feels asleep. We rush, we scroll, we react, and somewhere between the alarm and the anxiety, we forget to ask the most important question: why am I waking up at all? You are not lazy, you are not unmotivated, you are simply waking up without direction. And today, I want to walk with you, step by step, through an inner journey of 7 realizations that can transform not just your mornings, but your entire life. Listen carefully. If you miss the last few lessons, you will miss the heart of this transformation. Most people wake up every morning with a long list and a heavy mind. What do I need to finish today? What deadline is chasing me? What problem is waiting for me? Very rarely do we wake up asking a gentler, wiser question: who do I want to become today? And this small shift changes everything. You see, productivity without purpose is like running on a treadmill. You are sweating, you are exhausted, you feel busy. But at the end of the day, you are still standing in the same place emotionally. Many people are incredibly productive, yet deeply unfulfilled, not because they lack discipline, but because they lack direction. I have met people who wake up at 5 a.m., exercise religiously, read books, meditate, plan their day perfectly, and still feel empty by evening. And I realized something very important. Discipline is powerful, but discipline without clarity becomes another burden. It becomes one more thing to keep up with instead of something that lifts you up. Purpose is not about doing more things. Purpose is about doing the right things for the right reasons. Imagine someone driving a car at full speed, fuel tank full, engine perfect, but the GPS is wrong. The faster they go, the further they move away from where they actually want to be. That's what happens when life is driven only by productivity. Speed increases, stress increases, but satisfaction decreases. Purpose asks a deeper question: not how busy will I be today, but what kind of human being will I be today? Will I be patient when things don't go my way? Will I be honest when it's uncomfortable? Will I be kind when no one is watching? When you wake up with purpose, your day is no longer controlled by circumstances. Even simple actions feel meaningful. Even small efforts feel sacred. Because you are no longer just doing, you are becoming. Many people say, once I achieve this, then I'll feel fulfilled. But fulfillment doesn't come from reaching the next milestone. It comes from aligning your actions with your values. Purpose is like an inner compass. It doesn't remove challenges, but it tells you which direction to walk when life feels confusing. Without it, even success feels noisy. With it, even struggle feels meaningful. And here's something very practical. Purpose does not require you to know your entire life mission when you wake up. That's a misunderstanding. Purpose begins very simply. It begins with intention. Before your feet touch the floor in the morning, take one moment and ask yourself, how do I want to show up today? Not what you want to achieve, but how you want to live. Because when intention leads, productivity follows naturally. But when productivity leads without intention, burnout follows eventually. A purposeful morning doesn't scream ambition. It whispers clarity. It reminds you that your worth is not measured by how much you produce, but by how consciously you live. It teaches you that life is not a race to be won, but a responsibility to be honored when purpose comes first. Even your failures teach you something. Even delays refine you. Even ordinary days feel like progress. So tomorrow morning, before checking your phone, before checking your schedule, check your heart. Align yourself inwardly before you engage outwardly. Because the most successful people are not the busiest ones. They are the ones who know why they wake up. And once that why becomes clear, every how becomes lighter. Every morning gives you a small sacred window, and most people unknowingly slam it shut. There is a quiet softness in the first few moments after you wake up. Your mind is not yet hardened. Your heart has not yet armored itself. You are not fully pulled into roles, expectations, fears, or comparisons. For a brief time, you are simply you, before the world begins making demands. And what do we usually do with this moment? We hand it over to noise. A notification tells us what's wrong with the world. A message tells us what someone expects from us. A screen tells us who is ahead of us. Before we even sit up, our peace is outsourced. And then we wonder why the day feels rushed, scattered, and reactive. How you start the day is not a small habit. It is a statement. It tells your mind who is in charge. When the day begins in reaction, the rest of the day follows the same pattern. You spend hours responding instead of living, coping instead of choosing. But a purposeful life begins with a purposeful start. Think of your mind like a cup of water. In the morning, it is clear and still. Whatever you pour into it first sets the tone. If you pour stress, urgency, and comparison, that flavor stays with you for hours. If you pour calm, gratitude, and intention, something else happens. Your mind becomes an ally instead of an enemy. You don't need an elaborate ritual. Purpose is not impressed by complexity. Even a few conscious moments can change the direction of your inner world. Sit up, breathe once, slowly, acknowledge the fact that you have been given another day. That single pause creates space between stimulus and response. And in that space, awareness is born. Many people say, I don't have time in the morning. But the truth is, we all have the same 24 hours. What changes is what we give priority to. If the first thing you give your energy to is the world, don't be surprised when you feel drained by noon. Purposeful mornings are not about doing more. They are about protecting less noise, less rush, less unnecessary input. I once heard a powerful idea. If you don't decide how your day begins, someone else will decide it for you. And usually that someone else doesn't have your peace in mind. When you begin the day intentionally, you reclaim authorship of your life. You are no longer a passenger pulled by circumstances. You become the driver, calm, alert, and aware. This doesn't mean the day will be perfect. Problems will still arise. Delays will still happen. People will still behave unpredictably. But your response will be different. Because you didn't start the day scattered, you started it centered. There's a beautiful strength that comes from beginning the day gently. You speak more thoughtfully, you listen more patiently, you react less impulsively. And suddenly, people around you feel the difference, even if they can't explain it. Purpose is not only about big life goals, it is about the quality of attention you bring to each moment. And attention is shaped first thing in the morning. When you rush at the start, the mind learns urgency. When you slow down at the start, the mind learns presence. And presence is the foundation of every meaningful life. You don't need silence for an hour. Even 1 minute of awareness is enough to remind your nervous system that you are safe, grounded, and in control. That minute becomes an anchor you return to throughout the day. So tomorrow morning, before the world rushes in, give yourself the gift of arriving fully. Not as an employee, not as a student, not as a role, but as a human being. Because when you honor the beginning of the day, you quietly honor your entire life. And once the start is protected, the direction becomes clearer. The moment you wake up and look outside yourself for validation, purpose begins to fade quietly. Comparison has a very subtle way of entering our lives. It doesn't arrive loudly. It slips in gently, through a screen, a conversation, a thought that says, everyone else seems ahead. And before you realize it, the day that could have been meaningful begins with a sense of lack. You see someone else's success and your own journey suddenly feels slow. You see someone else's routine and your own effort feels insufficient. You see someone else's clarity and your own confusion feels like failure. But comparison does not show you the full picture. It shows you highlights without context, results without process, endings without beginnings. And when you measure your life against someone else's chapter, you unknowingly abandon your own story. Purpose is deeply personal. It cannot be borrowed, it cannot be copied. It unfolds according to your inner timing, not society's calendar. A mango tree and a bamboo tree do not grow at the same speed, yet both are perfect in their own nature. If the mango tree started comparing itself to the bamboo, it would feel inadequate. But nature does not rush. It understands rhythm. We forget that our lives also have rhythm. When you wake up thinking, I should be further by now, you are not motivating yourself. You are pressuring your soul, and pressure rarely produces clarity. It produces anxiety, self-doubt, and constant dissatisfaction. Comparison shifts your focus from growth to performance. You stop asking, am I learning? And start asking, am I winning? And that question slowly drains joy from even genuine progress. Purpose does not demand speed, it asks for sincerity. Some seasons of life are meant for visible achievement, other seasons are meant for invisible preparation. When roots are growing, nothing is seen above the surface. But without strong roots, the tree cannot stand when storms arrive. Many people wake up every day unhappy not because their life is wrong, but because they are measuring it against the wrong scale. Social media has made this even harder. We are exposed to hundreds of lives before breakfast. And the mind, without awareness, begins to assume that everyone else is confident, successful, and certain, while we alone are confused. This is an illusion. Every person you admire has struggled in ways you will never see. Every life you compare yourself to has private doubts, private failures, private fears. But comparison never shows you that part. When you stop comparing, something beautiful happens. Your energy returns to you. You stop leaking attention outward and start investing it inward. You begin to notice your own progress, small, quiet, but real. Purpose grows in self-trust, and self-trust grows when you honor your own pace. Ask yourself gently in the morning, what is my next step today? Not someone else's, not the world's, yours. That one step, taken consistently, builds a life that feels aligned instead of rushed. Comparison creates urgency without direction. Purpose creates direction without anxiety. The moment you stop chasing someone else's timeline, your own path becomes visible. You begin to hear your inner voice again, the one that was drowned out by noise and expectation. And here's the truth, you don't need to be ahead of anyone, you only need to be honest with yourself. Purpose is not about being better than others. It is about being better than yesterday, in awareness, in effort, in intention. When you wake up and accept where you are without judgment, you give life permission to move you forward naturally. And that acceptance is not weakness, it is wisdom. Because a peaceful mind grows faster than an anxious one. There comes a point in life when inspiration alone is no longer enough. You may feel motivated. You may feel spiritually connected. You may even feel clear about what kind of life you want. And yet, nothing truly changes until responsibility enters the picture. Because responsibility is where purpose stops being a thought and starts becoming a lived experience. Many people say, I haven't found my purpose yet, but often purpose is not missing. Commitment is. We wait for clarity before taking responsibility, not realizing that clarity usually comes after responsibility. Purpose does not arrive with a dramatic announcement. It reveals itself quietly when you show up consistently for what is already in your hands. Your current role, even if it feels small, your current duties, even if they feel repetitive, your current relationships, even if they feel challenging, these are not obstacles to purpose, they are training grounds. Life watches how you treat what you have before offering you more. When you handle small responsibilities with sincerity, you develop inner strength, and that strength becomes the foundation for greater purpose. Responsibility shifts your mindset from what do I feel like doing to what needs to be done. And while that may sound heavy, it actually brings freedom, because discipline removes chaos. It creates order, and order creates peace. Think about it. When your room is messy, your mind feels cluttered. When you organize your space, your mind breathes easier. Responsibility does the same thing internally. It clears mental noise. People often mistake responsibility for restriction. They think it limits freedom, but the opposite is true. Responsibility creates trust in yourself and from life. When you become reliable, life gives you more meaningful work. Purpose grows when you stop blaming circumstances and start owning your actions. As long as everything is someone else's fault, growth is delayed. But the moment you say, "This is my responsibility," something powerful shifts inside. You move from victimhood to authorship, and authors shape stories. There is a quiet dignity in doing what needs to be done, even when no one is watching, even when there is no applause, even when the work feels invisible. That dignity refines character, and refined character can carry purpose without collapsing under pressure. Many people want impactful lives, but few are willing to build the discipline required to sustain them. Responsibility trains your nervous system to stay steady, not just when things are exciting, but when they are monotonous. And purpose is not sustained by excitement. It is sustained by consistency. When you wake up with a sense of responsibility, your day becomes grounded. You are no longer drifting emotionally. You are anchored in commitment. And that anchor keeps you steady during storms of doubt and distraction. Responsibility also teaches humility. You realize that life is not only about how you feel, it's about how your actions affect others. This awareness deepens purpose beyond self-interest. Purpose matures when you understand that your life is connected to other lives, that your effort matters not only to you, but to those who depend on you, directly or indirectly. When you take responsibility seriously, you stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop postponing growth. You start working with what is available. And slowly, almost quietly, purpose begins to take shape. Not as a grand title, not as a label, but as a way of living. You don't wake up asking, "What is my purpose?" anymore. You wake up asking, "What is my duty today?" And that question leads you forward, one conscious step at a time. At some point in life, achievement stops feeling as satisfying as we thought it would. You reach a goal, and for a moment there is excitement. But soon the mind asks for more. Another target, another milestone, another validation. And if your life is built only around success, the hunger never ends. It keeps moving the finish line, leaving you restless even in moments of victory. This is where many people get confused. They think they need bigger dreams, higher ambition, faster progress. But what they actually need is depth. Purpose deepens when life is no longer only about what you gain, but also about what you give. When you wake up thinking only about yourself, your world feels small, your problems feel heavy, your stress feels personal. But when you wake up thinking about how you can serve, something shifts. your perspective widens, your ego softens, and suddenly even effort feels lighter. Service does not mean abandoning ambition, it means refining it. When success is guided by contribution, it stops being toxic, it stops being ego-driven, it becomes meaningful. Think about it. The most fulfilled people are not those who achieve the most for themselves, but those who became useful to others. Their lives feel rich because their purpose is larger than their personal comfort. Service grounds you in reality. It reminds you that everyone is fighting a silent battle, that kindness is never wasted, that your presence itself can be valuable. Many people underestimate this. They think service must be grand. It doesn't. A sincere conversation, a moment of listening, doing your work with integrity because it impacts others, these are all acts of service. When your actions help even one person breathe easier, your day carries a quiet sense of fulfillment. You sleep differently, you wake up differently. Because deep inside, you know your life mattered that day. Service also protects you from emptiness. When life becomes difficult, and it will, purpose rooted in service keeps you stable. Even when things are not going well for you, you can still contribute. And that contribution reminds you of your worth. A life centered only on success becomes fragile. When success is delayed or taken away, identity collapses. But a life centered on service remains strong, because no one can take away your ability to care. Purpose grows when your heart expands beyond self-interest. When you ask not only, what do I want from life, but also, what does life want from me? That question is transformative. Service teaches humility without humiliation. It shows you that greatness is not about being above others, but about lifting others up. And here's something important. Service brings joy without demand. You don't need applause. You don't need recognition. The joy comes from alignment, from knowing your actions match your values. When you wake up with service in mind, your work gains soul. Your relationships gain depth. Even your struggles gain meaning, because they are no longer just about survival. They are about growth. Purpose rooted in service is sustainable. It does not burn you out, it nourishes you, because giving from a conscious place replenishes energy instead of draining it. So when you plan your day, add one simple intention: how can I be useful today? That question will guide you more wisely than any productivity app ever could. And when service becomes part of your identity, purpose stops being a concept. It becomes a lived reality. Most people think gratitude is a reaction. They believe you become grateful after life gives you what you want. But the truth is very different. Gratitude is not the result of a good life. It is the cause of one. When you wake up without gratitude, the mind immediately starts scanning for problems. What's missing? What's wrong? What could go better? And once the mind locks into that pattern, nothing feels enough. Even blessings feel incomplete. Gratitude interrupts this pattern gently but powerfully. It doesn't deny struggle. It doesn't pretend everything is perfect. It simply shifts your attention from what you lack to what you already have. And that shift changes how you experience everything else. When you wake up grateful, the day feels less heavy. Not because challenges disappear, but because your inner strength increases. Gratitude reminds you that you are supported by life in more ways than you notice. Even your breath is a gift. Even another chance is a gift. Even the ability to try again is a gift. When you begin the day acknowledging this, you stop living from entitlement and start living from appreciation. And appreciation softens the heart. A grateful heart is less reactive, less bitter, less impatient. It allows you to respond to life with maturity instead of resentment. Many people say, I'll be grateful when things improve, but improvement often begins after gratitude. Gratitude aligns your mind with abundance, and an abundant mindset sees possibilities where a complaining mindset sees only limitations. Gratitude also brings humility. It reminds you that not everything you have was earned by effort alone. There were circumstances, people, grace, and timing involved. This awareness deepens respect for life. When you wake up grateful, even routine tasks feel different. Work feels less like punishment and more like participation. Relationships feel less like expectations and more like connections. Gratitude turns routine into revelation. It helps you see meaning in the ordinary, and purpose grows best in the ordinary, not just in dramatic moments. There is also something deeply stabilizing about gratitude. When life shakes you, gratitude keeps you grounded. It prevents you from falling into victimhood. It doesn't say, this shouldn't have happened. It says, this is happening. How can I grow through it? That mindset is powerful. Gratitude trains the mind to look for lessons instead of losses. And lessons move you forward. Losses, when clung to, keep you stuck. When you practice gratitude consistently, your nervous system relaxes, anxiety reduces, comparison weakens, you stop chasing happiness and start recognizing it. Gratitude does not make you passive, it makes you peaceful. And from peace, wise action emerges. A person who is grateful still works hard, still dreams big, still strives. But they do so without desperation, without constant dissatisfaction, without inner violence. Purpose anchored in gratitude is resilient. It doesn't collapse when things don't go as planned. It adapts, it learns, it continues. So tomorrow morning, before your mind lists what needs fixing, gently list one thing worth appreciating. Just one. Let that be the emotional tone setter for your day. Because when gratitude leads, life responds differently. And when life responds differently, purpose feels natural, not forced. There is a moment in every person's life when the search outside must finally turn inward. After all the routines, the habits, the discipline, the effort, something deeper quietly asks to be remembered, not achieved, not proven, but remembered, that you are here for a reason, not a random reason, not a competitive reason, but a meaningful one. Most of our suffering does not come from lack of ability, it comes from forgetfulness. We forget that life itself is a gift. We forget that waking up is not guaranteed. We forget that existence carries intention. When you remember this, mornings change. You stop waking up with resentment. You stop waking up with fear. You start waking up with reverence. Reverence does not mean seriousness. It means awareness. It means understanding that every day is an opportunity to grow in consciousness, not just in status. Purpose is not one dramatic mission waiting in the future. It is the quiet alignment of who you are with what you do. Today, when you remember you are here for a reason, you stop wasting energy proving yourself. You start investing energy expressing yourself authentically. You no longer ask, how do I impress the world? You ask, how do I live truthfully today? That shift brings peace. Life becomes less about control and more about cooperation. Less about forcing outcomes and more about trusting processes. You still work hard, but without inner resistance. Remembering your purpose also brings courage. Because when your actions are aligned with meaning, fear loses its power. Failure no longer defines you. It teaches you. Criticism no longer crushes you. It refines you. You begin to understand that your worth was never up for debate. It was inherent. When you wake up with this remembrance, even simple acts become sacred. Speaking kindly, working sincerely, listening fully. These are no longer ordinary behaviors, they are expressions of purpose. And purpose lived daily becomes character. Character is what carries you when motivation fades, when applause disappears, when life feels uncertain. Character keeps you aligned. This is why remembering matters more than chasing. Chasing exhausts the soul, remembering nourishes it. You don't need to find yourself. You need to return to yourself. Return to the awareness that life is not happening to you. It is happening through you. And when you live with that awareness, mornings stop being mechanical. They become meaningful beginnings. So tomorrow when you wake up, pause for a moment. Place your hand on your heart, breathe. And remember, you are not just waking up to another day. You're waking up to another opportunity to live consciously, responsibly, gratefully, and lovingly. And when you live this way, purpose stops being something you search for. It becomes the way you walk through life. Because true success is not about having everything. It is about living aligned with why you are here. And when you remember that, every morning becomes a blessing and every step becomes purposeful. And let me leave you with one truth, simple, timeless, and deeply rooted in faith. You are not created to merely pass through life. You were created to participate in it consciously. When you wake up remembering that a higher wisdom trusted you with this day, you stop treating life casually. You stop postponing growth. You stop living on autopilot. Faith does not remove effort. It gives effort meaning. It reminds you that every sincere action is seen, every honest attempt is valued, and no conscious step is ever wasted. You may not control every outcome, but you are always responsible for your intention. So wake up each day not asking, what will I get from life today, but asking, how can I honor the life I've been given today? Because when you place trust in a higher purpose and walk with awareness, even ordinary days turn extraordinary. And remember this, success is not reaching the top of the world. Success is living in alignment with truth, humility, and love. Live consciously, serve sincerely, trust deeply, and life in its own perfect time will meet you exactly where you are, with clarity, strength, and peace.